start the recording and we'll go ahead and start the show here. So I was just asking people to tell us like where they're from. I know where Phil's at. Phil is in, gosh darn it, I know it's like Fullerton, right, Phil? Because I call him Fullerton Phil. Well, hey, that's how you remember stuff. I mean, my mom and I were talking about a story earlier where my cousin was in, she's in Denver for my cousin's daughter's graduation, and my aunt knocked on the door this morning after going outside for some fresh air, and it was the wrong door, and how we start to forget stuff. So anyway, let's go ahead and get started. Enough of that. So, hey, welcome, Jessica. Jessica is a jewelry designer and an instructor, online instructor out of the Dallas area. And she's a professional jewelry designer, and she loves to share her craft and her techniques by sharing that with students all over the world. She began her jewelry tutorial HQ several years ago so she could share her passion for jewelry making with others. And she's got a thriving YouTube channel. And we've had other guests that have been on who also have these large YouTube channels. So we wanted to get Jessica on, especially last week. She got to talk to the Udemy studio and answer questions there in that format. And Matt and I had our show at the same time. So she's got a bunch of these videos online that are instructional videos. And we want to talk to her about that because I think that, and Matt probably would agree, that YouTube is a great way to get people to funnel over from your YouTube videos into your Udemy courses. And so it's also a great learning platform, but Udemy is even better because you can group those into courses. So welcome, Jessica, to the show. We appreciate you taking time to join us today from Dallas.
Thanks so much for having me, guys. It's great to be here. I feel like I know you because I like see you and interact with you all on a pretty frequent basis, but it's like the first time we're actually meeting. So it's great to meet you.
Awesome. Pleased to meet you too.
Same way, I feel like we've already like talked video, like face to face, but like we actually haven't.
I know it's weird, but it's cool. Yeah.
Awesome. Hey Matt, I'll let you go ahead and start out. Okay.
Okay. Let's see what we got here. So I just think it's like awesome that you have 45,000 YouTube subscribers. You operate a jewelry shop and you just teach people what you know, and you continuously sell on Etsy and other things. How long have you been on YouTube, and what should our listeners be doing to build up their own subscribers?
Well, I published my first video on YouTube in November of 2012. And I set the goal for myself that I was going to have within the next year 25 videos, and my goal was 150 subscribers. And by the end of that 12 months, I had about 5,000 subscribers and over 280,000 views for my first year. So that was my way of testing the market to see if I could get enough interest to make a business out of it. Like I always had the long-term plan that I was going to be selling Udemy courses. So this was my plan, to take it really slow. And what I think was really important for my first year and how I managed to get that many views and subscribes in the first year is because I wasn't selling anything. With the small exception of occasionally I linked out to my Etsy store. I wasn't pushing it though. It was just a question of, this is how you do this. And people would always ask, oh, where can I get those beads? So I started, saying, oh, well, I actually have a lot of these. I'll just put them in my Etsy store. So that was never the plan. But besides that, I really wasn't selling anything. My call to action for all of those first videos was subscribe to my channel, maybe come check out my website. So it's all free stuff. So everybody knows it's super easy to get people to pay attention to free stuff, especially if it's what they're looking for and it answers a question, something they're already interested in. So I think that was a really big part of my first year being so successful, is that I took the time to lay the foundation with videos that have the sole purpose of building my channel and getting people to know me. And I think if I had started out my YouTube channel after I'd already published a course or had a product to sell, I really don't think that the channel would have done so well, because instead of asking people to subscribe, I would have been saying, hey, buy my stuff. And when you do that, that's great if you can get them to click away from your channel or your YouTube videos, but that signals to YouTube. People are, watching like 30 seconds of your video and clicking away. So that signals to them, oh, well, they're leaving YouTube. So it's good for you if you can get the clicks, but I think it kind of drags down your channel, makes it really hard to build up a following, which is super important. Everybody knows, if you've got subscribers, they're there because they're interested. It's just like having an email list. These are people that sign up to hear from you on a regular basis. And they're super important. So I think, you really want to take the time to just have those few, I would say 5 to 10 videos at least, that can do the work for you in the background, start bringing in subscribers for you on a daily basis before you ever try to sell anything. And when you do finally ask, they're going to be much more receptive to it. Oh, I can't hear you. I can't hear you anymore, Matt.
He's on mute.
All right, sorry.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
Okay.
I was going to say that's awesome. You're literally patient for a whole year without trying to sell anything. They could just get to know you for the whole year, know that you add value, and then now they'd be more likely to buy when you did start creating Udemy courses.
Well, actually, it was, I want to say it was like more than actually 2 years, because by the time I finally figured out how to host my course, when I found Udemy, I'd been planning it, but I was like, I don't know what to do. So it took me a lot longer, but in the meantime, I was still continually building the channel. And, but I mean, I think, people start out, they think of YouTube as a marketing channel, which it is definitely, it can be an amazing marketing channel, but if you're there to market, I think you're going to have a really, really hard time actually building an audience, which is probably the number one thing that you really want to use YouTube for. Use it as a relationship building tool, not as a selling tool, because people don't go to YouTube to buy stuff. They go to YouTube to learn stuff, and they go to YouTube to learn stuff for free. They know it's free. That's why they go there. That's what they're looking for. So then your job is to build a relationship, somehow like get them on your email list, and then, then you can explain to them why they would want to buy your product. So I don't really sell a lot of stuff directly from YouTube. To me, it's a long game. It's a really, really long game. I'm definitely a patient person, and it might be like months and months and months before I convert somebody. But when they do convert, they're like fans for life, and that's awesome.
Yeah, good point. Hey, I have a question that I wanted to take a step back before we continue. And because I kind of built the show a little bit around your craft, which is making jewelry. And before Matt jumped in, I told you I had a friend who does jewelry making. And even myself, when I was younger in Seattle, you had mentioned beading, and that was like a big thing back in the 90s. And so I would buy beads and I would make some necklaces and things like that. And I found it as a great way to relax and, do some things with my hands and whatnot. When did you first find this interest in jewelry and making jewelry?
I was really, really young. Okay. My parents were kind of unconventional. Like, they wouldn't let us watch TV, really. So we had to find stuff to do. So I remember our weekends and our summers were things like learning to make pottery with my dad out in the garage, or building birdhouses out of wood. And it was all hands-on stuff. And so very, very early on, I don't even know how old I was. I might have been like 8 or something. But I remember every summer, my favorite thing to do was go to the bead store, buy a bunch of stuff, get a bunch of magazines and books, because this was before YouTube, and learn everything I could and make as much jewelry as I could for the summer. And then even when school started, I would take like friendship bracelets in my pocket so that I could work on them at recess. Mm-hmm. Because I guess I didn't have any friends to hang out with.
I remember friendship bracelets.
I was like, this will get me some friends. Here we go. Be antisocial in the corner, making bracelets for friends that you don't have. Cool.
Here's my French bracelet with my YouTube channel.
Anyway, so it was very early on. And like I said, I was learning from books, and that was really, really frustrating because if I didn't get it, I didn't have anybody to ask, and all I could do was read it again. If the directions weren't clear, and the picture didn't show what I needed it to, so I ended up figuring out a lot of stuff the hard way on my own. And then, gosh, I can only imagine how much farther I would have come if I'd had video instruction back then when I was learning. But
true.
Yeah, so it's been forever.
But then you wouldn't have identified a need in the marketplace. So
exactly.
And so you're the one filling the need, doing the video tutorials.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, and that's a really cool story that that your parents encourage you to do these other things rather than sit around the TV or play video games like a lot of kids do these days. And so you took that you took that and developed that talent into something, and that's why we're here talking today.
Mm-hmm. Yeah,
that's awesome.
At the time, I enjoyed the projects, but it was kind of frustrating sometimes not being able to watch the TV shows that all your friends are talking about, and then you don't have anything to talk about while they're sitting there talking about Saved by the Bell and whatever.
Yeah. Want to learn how to make some earrings?
Yeah.
Yeah. Well, that's cool because, that leads us to today where now you have a couple of Udemy courses, and, I've seen that those have like some awesome reviews. So what's an important aspect of your success with student satisfaction? Because you know what? I don't think that a lot of instructors pay attention to that. So what advice would you offer?
Well, okay. So mainly I would say I try to anticipate the questions and answer them in the videos. And I've taught classes in person, and obviously I've got a lot of videos online. So I know what the common and the frequently asked questions are. I always try to make sure and cover those in great detail. Because a lot of times I'm teaching beginners, by the way. So a lot of times beginners don't know what they don't know. So they don't know to ask. They don't know to ask, is it okay to use this wire? And the answer is no, don't use that wire. And you might think, well, jewelry wire, it's all the same, right? It's definitely not. You have to have a specific kind of wire for a specific kind of project, or it's going to be too soft, it's going to bend, it's going to break. And so I take the time to explain that and explain how important it is. And that's and the tools as well. There's certain type of tools that have ridges on them. You can't use those or it's going to get on your metal. So, and that's the number one aha moment for my students is nobody ever told me that before. I've been using the wrong tools. I've been using the wrong cutters. I've been using the wrong wire. No wonder everything is not working, and it's so frustrating. So I take the time to go over all that stuff that's not really that exciting, but I know that they really appreciate it. And also, I have a couple of troubleshooting videos. So I go through the techniques after we talk about the importance of the right tools and the right materials. Then I go through the basics of certain techniques, and then I follow it up with a troubleshooting video, which is kind of reinforcing, I mentioned in this video, don't do this or do this, but I didn't really spend a lot of time on why. So then I go back in the troubleshooting video and I explain, this is what happens if you do this, or this is what happens if you don't do that. And I think that really helps it stick. And so students are getting it where they've never gotten it before. I get comments all the time. I've tried this a million times. I've watched 1,000 videos on YouTube and I never got it until I watched your videos, because you explain every little step and you explain why every step is important. So I guess it just comes from experience of remembering what was frustrating for me when I was learning, the missing links that I had to figure out the hard way because they weren't in the books. And I just kind of make a point to go over those. And I think that really helps. Another thing is trying to be really, really clear on my course description page about what the course is, what it isn't, who it's for, who it's not for, just so that I set the right expectations, so that I get the right people, the students that are at the right level for the course. And then I take the time. Another thing I think is really huge in my kind of class is encouraging them to share their work and giving them great feedback and encouragement. Like, this is, beautiful and great job. And then offering, if there's anything that can be improved upon, obviously I want to let them know that. But I think just all of those elements, I think, are what have made my students overall really, really happy with my classes. Oh, and I should also note that I hardly have given out any free coupons, maybe like 25 total for my first course, and that has like 1,060 students now. So most of those, like 98% probably, are paying students. I think that makes a big difference, because when you sign up for something for free, you don't really have to read through the description because you don't care. But then when you go through it and you spend the time on something and then you're like, well, that didn't do what I thought it was going to do. It's not the instructor's fault. But, I guess it's not really the student's fault either, because they thought, well, it's free. There's nothing invested. I don't have to read. I don't have to know what I'm actually getting into because I'm not spending any money. I really think that has a big, that's a really big part of it for my courses.
Yeah, I agree that, like, when somebody has a financial commitment, that they're more likely to commit to learning the material and all of that. Although I've signed up for a few courses that I paid for and I haven't started yet. So it just depends.
Or even before they get into the class, there's just no reason for them to read through the description. Why do they even need to know what they're buying if they're not even buying it? It's like, free. Yeah, sure. So I do that all the time. I might watch the promo video and then I'm like, yeah, free coupon. Sure, I'll take it. And I'm not going to leave a horrible review or whatever, because I know that it's my fault if I didn't get what I expected. But I would never do that anyway. But I think they're not even committed enough to read through what the product is that they're signing up for before they sign up for it, because it's free. That's really what I mean.
Yeah.
So that's even more impressive that those are all 98% are paying students. I just wanted to ask you a question too, that for YouTube. So it sounds like it's not smart for me to, in the middle of the video, have a YouTube card that says unlock the full course and have them click away from YouTube. It sounds like it would just be smarter for me to maximize my subscribers. So my one call to action should be subscribe to my YouTube channel. And there are other ways that I could, if I wanted to promote my products to them, I could post a promotional video of the product and then promote it that way. Or they could just see my profile and see that I have my main website off of there. Or obviously, like, talk about that I have a website in the video too.
Well, there's a couple things I would say about that. First, it depends. Like, are you getting click-throughs that are converting for you, and are you happy with those numbers? If not, then I would say it's probably a good idea, even not necessarily to change the videos you have currently or the annotations or cards. Maybe just go back and add some foundational videos after the fact. If you didn't do it to start with, it doesn't really matter, because most people aren't going to go to your channel and go from the first video to the last video. So you can maybe add a couple going forward that are just to bring in your target audience and get them to subscribe to your channel. And then once you start seeing subscribers rolling in on a consistent basis, you start seeing those numbers going up, and like every day you're getting new subscribers. And I would say probably 5 to 10 videos is a good number, and try to spread them out. I think because I think I don't think it really helps to have like a lot of videos in a short amount of time, because people are only going to watch so many. So I would say spread them out, try to do 5 to 10 videos that are just there to get subscribers rolling in. And then those videos can eventually point to your other videos that have the call to action for the action that you want them to take. So, I mean, it's sort of a circle, but it's not really a circle because it's a big jumbled mess. But I think if you have all the pieces in place, no matter what order they're in, they're going to start working behind the scenes and just get the machine rolling. And then once you got those subscribers, when you upload that video, that's like, hey, new course, then you've got that message going out to subscribers, and they'll see the notifications, they'll watch your video, and they'll be like, oh yeah, cool, I know this guy. He's the business expert that, or whatever you want to be known for. And I think it's a big puzzle. Just make sure you have all the pieces in place somehow, and it should start working as a well-oiled machine, I think.
Because I like that advice, because I didn't have those pieces to the puzzle even considered. So thank you.
Yeah.
That's
so
a great idea.
You feel like your subscribers aren't growing very quickly, or you're not getting views, or?
I had a personal channel, and that was doing great. And I started a company page. I don't know how long ago, but I've been posting videos every day for the past month, and my views and subscribers are fine for my first month. And I would just say not enough time has gone by for the click-throughs or anything. I just wanted to know, I guess, if the plan that I had was even logical.
Well, then maybe you could go back to some of the, since you already did all the works, maybe some of the videos. I would say, like, the most important thing to think about is do you know who your target audience is? I know it's probably hard. You have a lot of courses, so I know it's probably hard to pick one target audience. But if you could, or at least for certain videos, then pick the video you think is going to attract the right person who would eventually want to buy your course, like if they're at the right level. So for example, for me, my beginner's course, I want to attract beginners. So I do things like answering the top questions that beginners have, like top questions at, like, what are the tools for getting started, things like that. And that's attracting the right people to my channel. And then eventually, I can lead them to a playlist with other videos. And maybe on that playlist, there's going to be like one, hey, buy my course type video. So you can go back and change some of those calls to action to subscribe. And a really great tip for that is check out the analytics. Say pick maybe even just 3 of your top videos. Look at your analytics to see where the drop-off point is. In my experience, it's usually around 2 minutes 30. And then put your call to action, your annotation or card, like right before that point. And so if you look at the stats and you see it kind of fall off, but instead of putting it at the end of the video where you're getting very few people, like the end of your course, where you get to put your bonus stuff, anything you want, sure.
Yeah, nobody gets there.
Side note, have y'all heard the joke, where is the best place to hide a dead body? On the third page of Google results? Well, my version of that joke is, where's the best place to hide a dead body? In the bonus lecture on your Udemy course.
Yeah, that's great information, because I never even thought about that a lot of people probably don't make it to the end. Yeah. I mean, I should know that, because when I read books and stuff like that, a lot of times, or there's a movie out there with John Travolta that I'm like, I've never watched the end of this movie. Like the last 15 minutes, for some reason, something came up at a friend's house and I had to leave. And I'm like, that's a good point with the video. So I will go in and take a look at that stuff.
I should clarify, though, that's a really great place to put your subscribe call to action while they're currently engaged. Going back to what I said before about, people clicking off your videos really soon signals to YouTube that, maybe they're not liking the content if they're getting distracted and going somewhere else. So not necessarily a buy my course call to action, unless you're okay with, once you reach the point where you're okay with your channel growth and all of that stuff. So just keep that in mind, I think, for YouTube SEO purposes. Then again, like if you're putting your most important calls to action, like your sales calls to action at the end of the video, even though there's a huge drop off, the people who stay to the end of the video are probably more likely to take the action at that point anyway. So I don't put a lot of stuff in the middle of my videos except like, you know, check out this other video, check out this other playlist, kind of keep them on my channel. Because like I said, I really try to think of it as building a relationship. So I want them to watch lots of my videos, you know, get to know me a little bit better so that when I have something to sell, they feel like they already know me, they know what I can do, they know how I teach, and I feel like it's an easier decision for them.
Yeah. Hey, that just got me thinking. I mean, I see your point on that, but the other thing is that we have to remember that we have an obligation to the people that we follow to offer them things. So like in my situation, it might be my Udemy life book. And if I just say, well, I'm just going to let them watch the video, then I'm kind of doing them a disservice by not offering them my Udemy life book that might give them even more information. So there's kind of like, what's that? Is it the term catch-22 or whatever? So it's just, that's just my thought on that, is thinking that sometimes we have an obligation to offer our followers other things that even though we sell them, you know, follow the 80-20 rule, that we're giving them lots of good free information and with value, but also here's something that I sell, like a course or a book or whatever.
Yeah,
but,
I absolutely agree.
Yeah, but I do see your point. I mean, building the relationship is critical, because you want those people to follow you and think that you're just not buy this.
Yeah, so just take the 80-20 rule with maybe the type of videos that you share, how often you're asking for the sale.
Mm-hmm.
You know, are you asking for the sale 80% of the time? Then that's probably doing less good for you than flipping it around and giving value 80% of the time.
Yeah.
You know, I mean, it just seems to work that way.
Or
totally agree.
Or for an example, you don't have to do this on every video. When like 2 to 3 minutes in, when people drop off, you have your call to action saying, here's this playlist so you can watch, you know, maybe a different video that might fit what you're looking for. And then at the very end, you can promote your book, Dennis. Maybe not on every video, but
yeah,
you can have more than one. Because is that a good idea, Jessica, or no?
I would try it. You know, I mean, you can always go back and change it. The only thing set in stone is like the video itself, right? So you can play with the cards, annotations, the placements, the description, all of that stuff. And you can always put that stuff in the description, because to me, that's not as salesy or as pushy. That's like people who are really interested. I mean, we all know that hardly anybody reads anything these days. You know, like I put all the information in the description about tools, you know, where to find this, what type, what size, and I still get the questions because people are so lazy. They don't even read the description, even when I say all of your questions are answered right there. And they still would, it's easier for them to just ask, you know? So, but the people who do read it are the people who are really engaged with you and are interested to learn more about what you have to offer, and just more about you, more about the video, more about your channel.
I was laughing earlier because I was thinking at that 3-minute point, you could come in and say, I realize that this is the point in the video that you might be bored. So let me go ahead and offer you either my book, or maybe you'll want to watch another video, or maybe my YouTube or my Udemy course. So.
Or have an intermission where it's like, you know,
yeah, really, here's the point.
People are dancing across the stage and
go get some popcorn.
I got your attention. Buy my stuff. No, but
yeah. Interesting.
I would say test it. And another thing that I wish I had been doing from the beginning is keeping a change log. And I only started doing this recently, and it's been so helpful to me. So I keep an Evernote notebook of every time I make a change, like if I change the description on something, if I change annotations, if I change the title, tags, anything. If I start linking to playlists, if I add a subscribe link in the bottom of an email, I make a note of it on the date, so that when I go back and look at my stats and I see a huge spike,
Yeah.
I can look at my changelog and know, oh my gosh, that's 2 days after I did this or whatever. And that's a really like, just do it. Get in the habit of writing down all of your changes so that if you see a huge dip or a huge spike, you know, or at least it's easier to figure out what caused it, you know, because sometimes you make lots of changes all at once, but at least you have a better idea instead of just sitting there scratching your head of like, oh, I don't know.
Sure, you can go back if for some reason the changes don't have the positive effect that you wanted them to.
Because you think you're going to remember, you're not going to remember. I
totally agree with that, and I think that a change log will help me. So thank you. That was good advice for me too.
Good. Glad to hear it.
I just put up a link to your Udemy profile too for people who are watching this blab. They can take a look at that and see the courses that she teaches on Udemy. Earlier, I was going to put up a link to your channel to let people take a look at that, because I really like what stands out. Like, one of the things that, you know, we talk about is that you want a consistent theme. And so looking at her, I put the link over on the right-hand side earlier so you could take a look at that, but everything is consistent. There's that, I believe you would call that teal maybe, or turquoise for the color.
Yeah.
Yeah, because I have a friend that she's really into turquoise, but everything has the same look and feel for the channel, including the playlist. And I tried to put that in there, and I forgot that blab when you do that it puts the YouTube video in there. So we all moved to the bottom, and so you can play the video. And I was like, oh my gosh, like I took it out of there real quick. But here, I'll paste it in there for those who want to take a look at it, because you can learn a lot by going into the channels of others who are successful, like Jessica, and several weeks ago we had Gabby Wallace on, who has a lot of followers on YouTube. And so when we see people who are doing things right, you know, you want to kind of mimic what they're doing and maybe have the same kind of success. So I put that in there on the right-hand side for people to look at.
Cool. Thank you.
Did Matt freeze? Oh, no. He's just...
I was reading the next question. Sorry.
Oh, okay. Well, go for it. Go ahead.
So, Jessica, how are you doing after the Udemy pricing change, and what are your thoughts about it?
Okay, so, well, I should start with the fact that my revenue on Udemy is mostly from my own promotions. So I actually have a pretty small percentage of organic sales, just because I'm not a hot topic on Udemy. Nobody's really looking for jewelry making, it seems. But so March, I know that was before the change, but March and April were way down just because the small amount of organic and affiliate sales were a lot lower. And then the beginning of this month really started to pick up pretty fast. Like, I reached whatever the amount I made last month, I reached that probably last week sometime. So I was like, okay, it's picking up. But then it seemed to drop off like 5 days ago, and I haven't seen like any action in 5 days. I'm like, oh. So I mean, I think in general, you know, I have mixed feelings about it, because I don't really like being told what to price my courses at, but I know that they did it for a reason. Like, I had plans in the future. My courses are all under $50 anyway, so my current courses are not really changed too much by it, other than the fact that I have to watch the other jewelry courses and see, you know, what they're doing. So I don't think I want to be the highest priced one. And I think I actually am right now, because they did lower the prices. So I'm kind of in a quandary as to what to do, because I'm selling courses at $39 on my website to complete strangers. So these are people, I'm tracking them, they're coming in from Pinterest, and they're buying my course at full price just from the landing page. Like, I don't, as far as I know, they don't have any relationship with me other than they may be following me on Pinterest. So that signals to me that it's priced right. And I feel like offering it for less than that on Udemy can have lots of negative effects. Like I feel like people are going to eventually find the course there. They're going to be mad that they paid this when they could have got it for $15 or so it's kind of put me in a situation where I don't really know what to do, but I'm going to leave it where it's at right now, which is $40 for my main course. But then, okay, so back to the pricing change, the sales that did come in this month from Udemy organic and ad sales were priced a lot higher. So instead of them being like $10 sales, they're $24 and $29. And actually, this month on Udemy, the lowest sales prices were from my own promotions, which is $19. So now I'm just kind of like, I don't know what to do, you know? So I'm going to wait it out and see and probably test a few things, but I think it's a little too soon to tell. It's only been, you know, almost 2 full months since the actual change, even though we started feeling the pain in March, just leading up to that. So I'm going to wait it out and see before I do anything drastic.
Yeah, it is kind of interesting because I'm going to try to relocate to Seattle, and I'm seeing these numbers that are coming in, and it makes me a little nervous at times, you know, because I have to be able to afford to pay rent and do other things. But I think that I can make it work, and I'm also going to Udemy Live in a few weeks. I've got all of that paid for. I'll just have to eat really light while I'm there, not indulge myself. So, but hey, you mentioned Pinterest, and that's a site that Matt and I have not talked a lot about on this show. So how's that working out for you? Maybe a little bit of advice for our listeners on how they can make Pinterest work for them, especially in your niche with the craft industry.
Well, in the craft, and so Pinterest is actually my #1 source of traffic to my website. I would say like 66% actually on a steady basis is from Pinterest. Wow. And because what I do is so visual, so I take pictures of the project. I try to take really great photos so that they grab attention. I try to use the long pins so they take up more real estate on the Pinterest boards. Yeah. And actually, my #1 pin, like my most repinned pin, is the one that I did. I just took like lots of different pictures from the projects in my course, and I just did like 5 in a row on a long pin, and then at the bottom it says Wire Wrapping for Beginners online course, and that's like my most repinned pin right now, which is awesome. Because I switched it from going to Udemy to my Thinkific school now. So that's why I'm getting all those full price sales, because it's not a coupon. But I think for what I do and what we do if we're in the craft industry is very visual. So you want to make sure that you take really good pictures. You can get an idea of what people are pinning just by seeing what catches your eye on Pinterest. If you're obviously that's what you're interested in, then look at what you're pinning and why do you think you're pinning it? It's a great picture. It stood out. Maybe it's bright colors. Maybe it's the text. Maybe it's because it's a long pin. What is it? What do you think that people like about that pin? And then try to recreate that when you make your images for Pinterest. And I use Photoshop every day, so that's just my go-to for photo editing. But Canva is a really awesome program, and it's free, that you can create your pins, especially long pins. They make it really easy for you to do that. So I would say if you have a way to make a really long pin that's interesting, make it bright. When I say bright, maybe like a white background and lots of colors, as opposed to like dark photography that just kind of just blends in, I think.
Yeah. I posted a link to your Pinterest. I guess they call it a channel on Pinterest, but you have over 10,000 followers, which, I mean, that in itself is very impressive, because I've been on Pinterest almost since day one. Matter of fact, like, I've been in Idaho for several years, and I was living with some friends in Seattle and did some stuff on Pinterest and put it into my social media book at the time. And I just don't do a lot of stuff. I actually went there the other day, and every time I get go to Pinterest, for me, I get drawn into like all of the food pictures.
Don't we all?
There's some good stuff out there, but yeah.
There is. Well, my Pinterest strategy is very similar to my YouTube strategy. So the images that you see right now on my board, those are none of my tutorials, none of my jewelry, nothing. So I make a point to pin 80% of the time, it's probably more like 90+% of the time, other people's stuff, like great pins that I know my target audience is going to like. So I know that the people I want to attract like making jewelry, right? So I pin other people's tutorials, I pin other people's inspiring, beautiful jewelry, and that attracts the right people to my account. They start following me so that when I have a pin that's mine and I pin it, they're going to see it and they're more likely to pin it because it's like right up their alley. You know, it's what they want to see. So that's the same strategy. And I would say that probably works on most social media platforms. But those are the two that I focus on the most, Pinterest and YouTube, because I know people, I think, Matt, you spend a lot of time on Twitter, right? And Dennis as well.
Mm-hmm. I don't really spend that much time on Twitter.
Okay.
I do. I do.
Because, okay, so compare, like, I guess this is kind of a tangent, if that's okay. Compare the average lifespan of a tweet is like 15 minutes. The average lifespan of a YouTube video, I don't actually know the number, but I know that my #1 video is still one of the first few that I posted. Like, I think it's the 4th video that I ever posted is still bringing in the most views every month, the most ad revenue every month. And that's to answer a question I saw earlier. Yes, I do have ads on most of my videos, not the ones where I'm promoting my course, but just my other, like my early videos still do have ads on them. So the ad revenue is subscribers coming in from my old videos that are like 4 years old. So content value over time, that's a term that I recently used, CVOT, that I recently learned, but I've known the idea for a really long time. And with Pinterest, it's long. Like, I still have old pins from a couple of years ago still bringing in traffic because they're still getting repinned. So I spend my time on Pinterest. I spend my time on YouTube. I'm spending less and less time on Facebook because I think the average lifespan of a Facebook post is like a day. Well, I just don't have the energy to be in all of these places. So I focus on what's actually working instead of looking at where I'm lacking and spending more time there, because that's just, I know maybe it's counterintuitive, but instead of looking at Twitter and saying, wow, I've only gotten like 2 visits to my website from Twitter in the last quarter, I need to work more on Twitter. The answer is not work more on Twitter, because there's probably a reason. Like, it's either your people aren't on Twitter or they're not engaging with you on Twitter. The answer is look at what is working and just put a little bit more time into that. And that's when I started really seeing like my Pinterest account growing a lot more rapidly, is when I stopped wasting time on Twitter and Facebook. Even I hardly ever post on Facebook anymore. It just doesn't, bring in. It just doesn't bring in a lot of results for me. So
that's interesting, and I think that that's a great takeaway, because I always take, like, Matt wrote down some stuff earlier, and I look for takeaways from our blabs that, when you said that, I always think about like my Craigslist, how to place an ad on Craigslist video, and also spillway here for a dam near Boise that only spills water over like once every 10 years. But those 2 videos continue to be my top videos. And I'm like, why would anybody watch a video of water spilling over, and people do. And so, we forget about that. So those are some great points. And I did some pinning on Pinterest the other day for some of my blog posts and some of my courses. So I'm glad that you gave us some information on Pinterest. And I'll let Matt wanted to ask you a question about traffic on your website. And then I think Phil had a question too.
Sure.
Well, yeah, I just also wanted to say that my oldest video that I actually posted on YouTube about creating an eBay seller account is my most viewed and continuously uh, is my most viewed video, pretty much by far, by 10,000 views.
That's
Wow.
great. So
Yeah.
that would be the first video to go back and put in your subscribe link right at the drop, like right before the drop off point. And maybe you can add in some other stuff into the description. I mean, don't do too much change. Maybe just like, don't change the title or anything like that or too much of the wording, but you can just add in like a link to, if it's not already there, of course.
Yeah.
Hey,
Yeah, so-
just real quick, when you say subscribe, are you talking about subscribing to an email list or the channel?
The channel.
And
I think
how do you get that to pop up?
there's lots of ways you can do it. You
That's
can create
loud.
you can create an
10 minutes.
annotation.
Sorry.
You can create an annotation.
Okay.
So you can do like a label or something. You can create a box with it. You can make it big and you can put a color in the background. So you create a clickable annotation that
Okay.
links to your subscribe.
Mm-hmm.
And then also you can go into your channel settings and I think it's under channel branding. You
Yeah.
can set a watermark in the lower right hand corner, and that's like your channel icon.
I have that.
Or
Yeah.
and if you set it, I think I have mine set to start after 5 seconds and just go through the whole video.
Mm-hmm.
But I think people know if they see that in the corner, that's like if they click on that, they can subscribe to your channel.
Yeah, see, because I always thought that it was that button, the watermark button, which it can't get very large. It's small. And then I just did a small snippet of a blab that Matt and I did, and there were only 3 people, so I took the black space and put subscribe now or something like that in there. But I didn't realize that you could make it clickable, so I'll have to go back and do that. So, I mean, I know stuff about YouTube, but that's why I asked the question, because there's always something to learn. So Matt's lucky that I don't live in Boston or I'd come thump him on the head. Go ahead, Matt, with your website traffic question, because I'd like to know some information on that too.
Okay, so you said that you have about 65 to 66% of your traffic that comes from Pinterest. So with one of the questions, how are you driving traffic to your website? We obviously know that it's Pinterest now, but one of the other ways that you see are working, and one of the ways that maybe that you're also trying to work on, but it hasn't been as like you want it to be a little more effective.
Okay, so yeah, Pinterest is the #1 thing. So I always try to make sure that for every video I create, I also create a blog post. And then usually what I do is I share the blog post on my social media. So I link to the blog post instead of linking to the video in most cases. And then I send out an email to my list, sending them to the blog post. I post it on Facebook. I go ahead and post it on Twitter, even though nothing's going to happen. And G+ if I remember. And then there's a lot of craft sites. Like there's a site called Craft Gawker. And it's sort of like Pinterest, and there's several other ones, and I just kind of keep a list. I need to actually turn it into a spreadsheet because I go through them all. After I make a blog post, I have a list of places. But Craft Gawker is probably the next really big thing, and it's really hard to get approved though. So you have to submit a photo, and they're really, 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 really picky, and I would say only 50% of the time they accept my photos. And I think I'm actually pretty good with photography in most regards. So I don't know, but that brings in a lot of traffic if you can get approved. So basically, I guess it's about finding your niche specific things. Like I don't even spend time on LinkedIn because I feel like if I were to share what I do on LinkedIn, that's not the right audience. Very few of my subscribers and followers are on LinkedIn. And if they are, that's not the place they're looking for craft inspiration. So it's obviously going to be different for every niche, every business. But if you focus on the outlets where your target audience is hanging out, which in your case probably isn't Pinterest. Pinterest is still, I don't know the stats, but at one point, the current stats, but at one point it was like 85% 5% female or more, and people looking for fashion and how-tos and recipes and stuff like that. So maybe not something you really need to bother with as far as business stuff and making money online and those kind of things. I think the key is just find the places where your target audience is hanging out and share there. So Craft Caulker is a big one for me. Blog Lovin' actually brings me a lot of traffic. It's do you guys know what that is?
What is it called?
Blog Lovin'.
I think maybe I've heard of that before.
I think it's just, I don't even know how to describe it. I guess you just, it just pulls the RSS feed from your blog or just pulls in the image and the title. So if you link it to your blog, every time you have a post, it shows up on Blog Lovin'. And then Blog Lovin', if people follow you on Blog Lovin', they get a daily digest of the new blog posts.
That's cool.
And so, I mean, I'm following, as far as I know, it can be used for all kinds of blogs, but the ones I see most are similar to Pinterest. So it's probably like your blogger crowd, as far as like your lifestyle bloggers and mommy bloggers and recipe food bloggers and crafters and stuff like that. But it doesn't hurt. I would say, check it out and see if there are any blogs getting any traction on there that do what you do. And if so, sign up. You can put like a link on your site, but I think people already on the site know that if they follow your blog, then they're going to go look for you there. And then I get a lot of, I get pretty good traffic from YouTube and Google because I take the time to do SEO for each and every video and blog post.
I tried to put Blog Lovin' up there, but we pasted, both Matt and I pasted almost at the same time in there. But that's a really cool tool because I think that might also help with SEO too by having your blog posts somewhere else out on the interwebs, as the Chewbacca lady would say. So, hey, I wanted to ask a few questions that our audience has asked before we move on, because I want to thank everybody, first of all, for showing up and taking time out of your day. I'm so excited that we have you as a guest, and there's been a lot of great information. We've had some people comment saying, great blab, and the quality of the blab is a lot better than it was last week when we pretty much lost the entire audience for technical glitches. Phil Ebner, who also is a Udemy instructor and a friend of ours, he has a question that what are your different revenue streams? Is Udemy your strongest, or do you have other streams?
Yeah, Udemy is currently my strongest. I do have other streams that kind of build up my little empire. So Amazon is doing really well for me right now. Affiliates Amazon, because I do tutorials, and if it's not something that I carry in my Etsy shop, then I link to the Amazon, like jewelry tools. I don't sell those. Most of the things that I use, I don't sell in my shop. And I'm not really trying to focus on my Etsy shops so much anyway. So yeah, I do pretty well from Amazon. Actually, I was just looking at my stats the other day, like from my YouTube channel and my overall conversion rate on Amazon products is over 10%. And on some particular places, like on my blog, it's been as high as 15%, which my understanding is that's pretty good. And I think that works because you're showing somebody how to use something, and then it's natural for them to say, I want to make that, I need that, I want it, here it is. And then they click through and buy it. So that's working really well for me. YouTube, I'm still doing really good on YouTube as far as AdSense revenue, even though I've got a few videos that I turned off the monetization for because I thought they would be perfect to link to my course instead. So I don't run ads on my videos, like my promo video for my course. I don't run ads on that one. And a couple of others where the main purpose is to get people interested on my course. Like my call to action is either get my free course, get on my email list, or check out my whatever it is, just because it kind of competes. Also, I saw one of my videos had a competitor's class ad on my video, and I was like, oh, hell no. So I turned it off. So that kind of, I saw a dip in my revenue when I did that, obviously, because I turned off some of my monetized videos. But That's okay, because I think it brings in, you know, in the
You're
long
not
run.
having your competition being advertised on some of those YouTube videos anymore.
No. So I mean, you always hear that. You're like, well, if you run ads on your videos, you're likely to get your competitors. I was like, yeah, sure, whatever. But then I saw it one day and I was like, oh my gosh, that really happens. So
You know that revenue from AdSense though can be like amazing, because a former Udemy instructor posted a link to a website called socialblade.com. And if you go to socialblade.com/YouTube, you can type in the name of any YouTube channel. So the other day I got curious because there's a guy here in the Boise area who has these videos of these cats, his cats. And he actually, when they move their mouths, he puts in words, and it's hilarious. And the guy has like almost 600,000 followers, and the videos have been watched like millions of times. Like every video at least has 1 million views. And so I was curious, and his revenue, the estimate is anywhere between something like $45,000 to $700,000 in income in 1 year. And there are channels out there of people doing tutorials with video games that are making millions or $1 million a year just from AdSense revenue. So if you're thinking about getting stuff out onto YouTube and you're interested in that, take a look at that, because that's because giving some great information on where you should and shouldn't put stuff in. But if you have a lot of different videos out there, it starts to add up. Myself, I don't have like a ton of videos. I've been doing this for a while, but I just am not consistent, because I think that Andy had a question on how important it is for regular uploads, and he's talking about weekly at 9 a.m. every Tuesday. If that's a big deal, I'll let you answer that in just a moment. But consistency is a big part of the game, and probably why I'm not bringing in huge dollars. But I usually make $100 every 3 months, and it's nice to have that come into my checking account. So how consistent should one be with their YouTube videos uploading?
I do know it is important to be consistent. I think obviously if you're posting like once a week, you're going to see faster growth than if you're posting once a month. But I will also say that I go for long periods of time without uploading, and it's never my intention to do that. And I always think, okay, I'm gonna make a video this week. I need to make a YouTube video this week. It's been way too long, and then it just goes on forever. So I'm guilty of, leaving subscribers hanging for sometimes even months at a time, especially if I'm working on a Udemy course. But I do know that is one way that I personally can improve, and that's something that's recommended. I actually had the opportunity to have one-on-one mentorship from somebody at YouTube. And that is one of the things that she suggested for my channel, is to start really seeing some more growth, explosive growth, upload consistently. And she said, once or twice a week is good, kind of spread out, but any more than that, you're probably overloading people. They're going to feel like they can't keep up, or it's just too much, or they don't know what to watch first, so they just kind of back off. I think you can definitely overwhelm your subscribers with too much content. It's better to schedule it out. If you have a lot that you want to share, it's better to schedule it out, 1 day a week. It was recommended that you choose a time so that you can say new videos every Tuesday or something like that. That's something that I have yet to do. I really want to do that for my channel. I haven't been able to make it work for me yet, but that is definitely in the plan, and I do think it's a really good idea, and I'm looking forward to seeing some really good progress when I can finally do that. So if you can, Andy, then I would say definitely go for it. And you can also play around with the time before you announce your set schedule anywhere. You can play around with the days. So see, maybe you'll get more traction if you upload on a Saturday morning or Wednesday afternoon or something like that. If you can test it out before you decide to make a commitment, and And then at that point, you can start telling your subscribers, I'll see you next Wednesday or whatever.
Good information on that. And then one more, and then I'll let Matt ask a question, and then we might want to start winding it down. I had answered the one on SEO tips for YouTube videos. I had said just take a look at other like videos in the search results and see what kind of keywords that they're using, and maybe add those into your descriptions or titles. And then we had another one, Meg's Minutes, was asking, do you sign up for other affiliate programs as well as AdSense? So you mentioned Amazon, right? Is another one. Any other ones out there that you're using?
Amazon has been the best. I've signed up for lots of different ones. Amazon has been the best, and I think it's because everybody knows Amazon. Everybody already has an account with Amazon. They've purchased from there before. They have a wish list. It's real easy. And even if they don't buy the product that you were recommending, if they click your link and they buy anything, like they go over there and like, oh yeah, I needed to buy this, or this is on my wish list, it's on sale, and whatever they buy, you still get credit for it. So even if they don't buy whatever it is, then I'm still getting the money for it. So I know that a lot of affiliate programs work that way, but Amazon is the easiest one in my experience, just because everybody knows it. It's going to be a lot harder to send somebody to like some unknown jewelry tool website and expect them to buy anything. That just hasn't really yielded a lot of results for me in the past. So I try to kind of narrow down. And also, the other thing is, if you're joining a lot of affiliate programs and they're all like separate programs and they all have a payout threshold, you might never reach that threshold. That's something I learned early on too, is I joined a couple of different programs and they're always like, oh yeah, no problem. I can, reach $100 easily. It's not that easy to reach $100 when their program is really tight and their, commissions aren't that great, or you just have a hard time selling to people that don't know this company or whatever. So with Amazon, it's aggregated, and I think with Linkshare and Share a Sale as well. So if you're going to go with, if you don't know what Linkshare or Share a Sale is, it's an affiliate program manager, I guess is the best way to describe it. So there's lots of different programs you can join within their umbrella, and you can join lots of different programs for different companies that are separate companies, but it's all through the Share a Sale or Linkshare system. So you get paid as an aggregate sum, which makes it easier to reach your payout threshold, if that makes sense. So you might only make $350 from one person, and you might make $75 here, and as long as it all adds up to over $100 or whatever it is, you'll still get your payment. So it's a little bit easier to do that way than instead of joining separate programs.
Cool.
I'm so sorry about the awkward transition, but we were talking about Facebook pages earlier and how just because the content that you post there doesn't have that much of a lifespan. But I see that you have a Facebook group. Can you talk about how important having one of those would be to engage your students / customers?
Sure. So I just started the group pretty recently, maybe like a month and a half ago. The reason I started the group just for students, but right now I haven't mentioned it to my current Udemy students, just because I don't want to break any rules, and I'm kind of unsure about how Udemy might start cracking down on what you can and can't post in your group. And I started up my Thinkific school, just went live the first of the month. And so I'm going to start hopefully transitioning students from Udemy or from my email list to that school instead. And so I started the group. I just sent it out to my email list, and I probably have like 120 people in the group or something. So it's a pretty small portion of my actual students, because I wanted to test it out and see, if I can keep up or how it is. And I think it's really great for building the relationship. I feel like I get to know my students so much better. I can put names to their faces. I can see where they live. I can see what they share. Well, at least in the group, the questions that they ask, the way they interact with each other. the problems that they say they're having. It's just a really great way to get all the information about like what can I, even without polling them, which is something that I'm going to be doing soon, even without asking explicitly, you know, what are your struggles? What are you having a problem with? Those are coming out in the group. You know, it's like, oh, somebody shares a picture and somebody else comes in and says, oh my gosh, I want to know how to do this. I tried it and I can't get it right. You know, so I'm like spying on all this activity, getting to know, and I'm like filing it away and keeping notes of what to include in my next class or what the next course should be. But I also think that it's a real, obviously it's a really good way for them to get to know me better too, because I'm interacting on all of their posts. They're sharing their work, they're sharing their photos, and I get to know their style as well for the jewelry that they want to make and that they like to make. So I think it's going to be great. You know, I haven't tried selling in the group yet, and I'm trying to figure out how I'm going to make the announcement of, you know, by the way, switching everything over to Thinkific. So hopefully you'll join me over there. But yeah, find a way to do it.
It's good to like spread yourself out over many different channels, especially like we talked about earlier with the price change. People, you know, start to worry about that, and newer instructors forget that Udemy is not committed to sending traffic to their courses. They've got a business that they're running, and they made some changes, and people have their different opinions on those changes. But, you know, Matt and Phil did I think it was a blab like, about a week ago on a couple, because they've got a course out and they teach people how to, is it at one of the sites that you're teaching people?
Yeah, Thinkific, yeah. We had a webinar basically teaching them how to start using Thinkific or Teachable, and we sent a Udemy educational announcement. And then at the end of our 90-minute webinar, we were selling them on the new course. So I don't know. I mean, I think you're allowed to do that. There's a lot of great information, or else not 50% of them wouldn't have bought it if that's what you're. I don't know.
Yeah, it's just like, I mean, letting people know that there are other channels out there to sell your courses on your own website, or these like Skillshare, and Matt has his website where he helps people out with that stuff too. So anyway, I wanted to ask, like, we probably want to start winding things down, and I just was looking through some of the questions. And one of the things that I wanted to bring up is that we're teaching online courses, but we also forget that we can teach offline. And I know that you teach in the Dallas area, and I used to teach some social media courses. And I always forget that, you know, like when I need to make some additional income, that I can set up a workshop or something like that. So how about some information on that for our listeners on how they can go about maybe setting up a workshop to teach their craft and maybe get people into their courses?
Well, luckily, my experience teaching live courses, I've found bead shops, like jewelry supply shops in the area that teach courses, and they're looking for teachers to come in and teach the classes. And so that's very little work on my part. You know, I have to send a proposal for the project, which in most cases I already had it, because I also I only have a few of them right now, PDF versions of tutorials in my Etsy shop. And that's something I want to expand on, because, you know, it's just another stream of income. But so I've already got these PDF tutorials put together. So that's usually what I take to the oh, hi, Kitty. That's usually what I take to the bead store and say, you know, this is my class proposal. These are the materials needed. This is my time availability. And they do pretty much all the work as far as filling up the classes and everything. You know, they tell me what time slots they have available. And then I just show up with my printouts for the students. The tools and supplies are already there. So that's very little work. I've been spoiled, actually, because if I had to do it all myself, find a space, fill up the class, everything, I probably wouldn't be teaching live classes. So I've been lucky in that regard. and I don't have a lot of experience that I can offer outside of that, as far as you probably have more experience that you could share as far as how to go about from scratch, setting up a space and a workshop and all of that.
Mm-hmm. Meg's Minutes wanted to know, do you collect email addresses at those workshops?
Yeah, when I'm allowed to, I do. And you always want to make sure that you're following the rules of the shop. So I always ask, is it okay to share, my website and get an email address? And sometimes they say no, and sometimes they say yes. So if they say yes, then I definitely do. My classes are small. They're usually only like 5 students, just because they have to all be able to see. So I can't really stand up in front of a classroom and demonstrate what I need to demonstrate because it's so close up. So classes are usually really small, but people always want to learn more. They love making jewelry. And I say, you can find free stuff on my website. And of course, they want to visit. So yeah, when I can, I definitely do.
Awesome.
When you get those students on your email list, how do you interact with them and keep them engaged and maybe convert them into a buyer of one of your online courses?
Well, so I have 2 separate lists right now. One is for people who subscribe just to my newsletter, I don't really call it that, but it basically it's just the newsletter. And I send out every time I upload a new video and create the blog post, I'll email them the new, hey, new free tutorial. And that's a great way to get a boost in traffic, by the way. And it's an easy idea for content if you feel like you don't have anything to say. If you have a new blog post or video, you obviously want to share it. And I say that because I actually didn't do that for a really long time. I don't know why it took me so long to figure out that's an easy one, right? I would stress about what to email, and it's like, well, maybe just let them know you posted a new tutorial yesterday. So I try to keep in touch as much as possible. It's getting fewer and far between now that I feel like I'm spread so thinly, and I'm trying to eliminate, things that are not worth my time anymore and get back into it. But I try to send out things like tips, hey, FYI, my students really appreciated this one tip. I thought you might really like to know that if you're having this problem, this is how you fix it. So just little tidbits that are related to jewelry making, inspiration. I've even sent out links to my Pinterest board in the past, like, hey, I've been pinning some awesome stuff, check it out. That's another really good one if you're short on time or don't know what to say, because obviously they're gonna find inspiration there. If that's what they're looking for, then they know that they're gonna find it if they go there. So I try to keep in touch as much as possible, but I know that that's something I really need to work on. And as far as converting them into students, I have my second list is a free mini course where I offer 3 video tutorials. It's for beginners. It's like learn to make wire wrap jewelry in 3 easy lessons. And I send them out. Each lesson gets its own email. So I communicate that with them over a period of like a week and send out 3 lessons. And the end of the 3rd lesson is a, hey, thanks so much for watching the course. I hope you learned some great tips. If you want to learn even more great stuff, you want to keep going, you want to learn everything there is to know about wire wrapping, we've really only just scratched the surface. I'm happy to offer you a discount to my big course if you'd like to upgrade. And so that's an automated sequence that I have. So, I give them the 3 free lessons without trying to pitch them anything, and then a follow-up with the soft pitch. And then a couple of days later, it'll be like a little bit more information. Like I send out a FAQ email about how the course works, just answering all the questions that I usually get about what's the schedule. I'm in Czechoslovakia. Am I going to miss all the lessons? People just don't know how it works. So I try to answer those questions. And that email, by the way, actually converts pretty well. Just anticipating those questions about, the projects, what supplies you're going to need. How does it work? Is it a recurring fee? Answer all those questions. And by the end of the email, they're like, oh, I had all those questions. Now I don't anymore. I'm going to give it a shot. There's a 30-day money-back guarantee. And then I've got a couple more follow-ups that are basically the harder sell. Like you have 2 days left, you have 1 day left, and that's it. And that sequence actually converts pretty well for me. because, and I think the reason for that is because my opt-in offer is so targeted. You know, it's aimed right at beginners who don't know this skill. If they don't know this, they don't know all the other stuff in my course. So if you can have a really targeted offer, maybe you're only going to get maybe you'll only get a smaller percentage of conversions as far as opt-ins, but the people who opt in are the right people for your product. So if you can kind of think of it as a big picture, like if my opt-in offer was an advanced tutorial, then I'd have a really hard time selling my beginner's course. So you just try to think of something that's going to attract the right person, who's the person that wants to spend money and learn what you have to sell. It'll be a lot easier and you'll see better results with that.
Good.
That's
good.
my system.
Great information. So, hey, Matt, is there anything else that you want to ask before we wrap it up? We're about 18 minutes after the hour here.
Do you have anything else you want to add, Jessica? Where can people find you? Any last tips?
I made a note, didn't I? The last tip. Let me see. Did I already cover that? Maybe I did. But yeah, you can find me at jewelrytutorialhq.com. That's my website. If you're interested in learning jewelry making, you'll find lots of free tutorials. If you want to get a coupon for my course, then you can go through the free course that I mentioned. And if you like it, then I'd love to have you in the big course. And then obviously my YouTube channel, which is Jewelry Tutorial HQ. I guess I would like to add one more thing. That's everybody's business is different, so there's no one size fits all formula. But I think that it really makes a lot of sense to keep in mind who you're trying to attract for your product, and give them what they need and what they want. Meet them where they're at as far as platforms. Like there's no need to be all over Tumblr if you're not trying to attract like the younger crowd, or I don't even know about Snapchat or anything like that. I think Snapchat's not for me and my audience. And Blab, for example, if I would love to be able to come onto Blab and talk about jewelry making tips and stuff like that. But my audience tends to be, I have a lot of older females, so they're, 55 and up. And I don't think, I think some of them are even a little confused by the concept of a Facebook group. So Blab is not going to be something they're going to want to figure out. So just try to stay true to your audience, meet them where they're at, talk to them about what they're needing, and just try to put yourself back in time to when you were a beginner, when you were first learning. Like, what did you wish somebody had told you? Like the first day you decided you wanted to learn about this thing, what is the first thing that you wish you would have learned? And all of the stumbling blocks that you came up against, those are probably the same stumbling blocks that your audience is having too. And then in terms of maximize what you already have. Look at your assets. Everybody has different assets. My assets are my YouTube following and my email list. Some people's assets might be their Facebook group or their Twitter account, or whatever's working for you. Just keep working it. Do everything you can to work that. Get everyone. I would say, instead of being in 10 different places and having kind of a meh reaction or paltry following in 10 different places, just narrow it down, spend your time more wisely, and give more value in those places that you're finding a better return on your time and money investment.
Mm-hmm.
So,
yeah. Hey, Matt, I think Izzy thinks that she said Snapcat. As soon as she said that, Izzy walks by. You see this tail like a shark or something like that. So cool. Great information. Hey, Matt, where can people find you online?
They can find me on skillhance.com, where I want to help hardworking people build a successful side business at an affordable cost. And Jessica, I just wanted to say that thank you so much for being on the show. You've definitely taught me many, many important tips, including that I need to be a little bit more patient. And I think maybe a lot of other people do as well. Think of the long game, because if you want to do this for a very long time, then you should focus on the long term and think logically about that long term.
Yeah. Hey, everybody, thanks for joining us today. I want to let you know that you can follow us here up above on Blab, so you can follow Jessica, Matt, myself, and other people who are watching us today. You can find me and the replays for the Blabs at dennisjsmith.com/blab. And on Matt's website, he posts the podcast version, so you can listen to the audio if you prefer. And we will be also uploading this to YouTube. That's the great thing about Blab. You can find us here every week on Thursdays at 10 a.m. Pacific time, 1 p.m. Eastern time for the Make Money Online show. And also, just a quick side note, I like to just put a quick plug in for one of my other websites, which is onlinecoursecoupons.com. So if you're interested in taking other online courses, instructors give me coupons to discount their courses at pretty much the lowest price available. So a lot of $10 courses, a lot of free courses over there to help you get educated for less. So thanks a lot, everybody, for joining us today, and we'll see you next week as Matt puts Izzy there on the back there. I know that she wants attention, so it's time for us to go.
Well, thank you so much for having me. It's been great. Thanks for everyone who joined in today. I'm happy to answer any other questions if you want to find me outside of Blab, or I'm sure you can find me if you want to get in touch. So
you bet. All right. Thanks, Jessica. Thanks, Matt. Thanks,
you.
everyone. Have a great day.
Okay,
Bye.
Bye.